This is a reflection upon a TED Talk I watched by Adam Leipzig, I believe is his name, and it was titled How to Know Your Life Purpose in 5 Minutes. And in the course of his brief talk, he had a list of 5 things by which questions to ask yourself to know your life purpose. And although his first one wasn't his first question and answer, which is just basically what's your name, I almost stopped watching it at that point. But I persevered, and actually his other questions were good. He gave us these questions and to define ourselves in terms of what we did to benefit others and how we positively affected them. And that's not bad, it's a good thing. But basically, for me, from my perspective, without any kind of spiritual understanding, it's basically good karma. What most people would consider a good life. You're helping people, you're not focused on your own interest, you want to help people, benefit them. So that's good. But anyway, his first question was, who are you? So for me, just to say I am such and such, I go by the spiritual name Karnamrita. I've divided it up as my official, name for writing and speaking. I have my birth name, Christopher Cox, but to say that's who I am is just like very shallow. And when I was in my late teens, and my life basically unraveled, what I thought was normal life unraveled, and I asked the hard questions. Who am I? Not just a name, not just what I do, but in an essential way. Who am I? And I came to understand that I was a soul having a human experience, and that the pursuit of understanding myself as a soul was all important. And the other part of that is my God, if you like, my higher power, my source, to understand my spiritual identity in relation to my creator, if you like, my source, and to see my life purpose as coming closer to that. Now, in the pursuit of that, we may help people in many different ways. We may help people with his other questions. Anyway, his 5 questions were, who are you? What do you do? And he refined it, what do you love to do? Who do you do it for? What do those people want and need, and how are they changed as a result? So those are valuable questions. I think everyone has to be able to understand themselves both materially and spiritually, understand themselves as a human being, and understand themselves as a soul, because all of this context of ourself as being a certain type of body, certain likes and dislikes, certain desires, that's all temporary. I know we don't usually think like that. We think in terms of just this life only. But when you really know that you're a spiritual being having a human experience, and that you have to leave everything behind, everything you've worked so hard to create and accumulate, that doesn't really, it's just like you're renting. We're renters, we're not owners in the material world, because everything, including our body, will, dust thou art, dust thou will become. So that's spiritual vision. And to me, it's all important. And although admittedly I've struggled for years to really have an occupational identity that I resonated with, and that I could embrace. Now, one of the funny things that he said is that a lot of times this man, Adam, is that sometimes you're in a social event and someone will ask you, well, what do you do? And then you're like, well, I wonder, why are they asking? Is he asking because He wants to see if I'm worth talking to, or does he just want to hear it so he can tell me what he does, what he thinks is more valuable? We may be in anxiety because we haven't really answered that question. It used to happen to me. People would ask me what I do, and I was just kind of doing, this is in the beginning of my marriage, I didn't really have a satisfying answer. I just said I just do what I got to do to make money to live. That didn't satisfy people very much, because we want to pigeonhole and label people. So someone may ask us that. We may not be sure of that. We may be in anxiety about that, or we may be doing something for money that we don't feel it really defines us. So, in a sense, these are all who are you questions, but we're more than what we do. And I experienced that, having like an ego death temporarily, when I was just consciousness, and I had no frame of reference to define myself in terms of my body, my mind, the world, what I did. Or take, for instance, somebody that they can't work anymore. Maybe they're in a wheelchair, or they're incapacitated in some way, and so then who are they? So we're more than what we do. We're more than our race. We're more than our gender. We're more than our family of origin. We're more than any material designation. But to really understand that requires some realization, some conviction, at least theoretically, like from reading sacred text, to understand, I'm more than the body, I'm more than the mind. And that regardless of however happy I may be with the designation that I've created for myself, at the time of death we leave that behind. And in a poetic way, we could say we take what we give. We take the attitude in which we give. And if you believe in the next life, which is determined by karma and reincarnation kind of go together. So then you understand that I take my good and bad deeds with me. I take lessons either that I've learned or I have yet to learn. And that which I've done to others, either good or bad. So, and spiritually, the love we give to God, the service we give to God, or your higher power. God has a bad name, mainly because of religionists. It's not that God, because that's the face. The face of God is the people that are on a particular path. And often, the majority of people in any religion are kind of fanatical or neophyte people. And it's not always a very attractive face. So, but anyway, this is just a response to this TED Talk. I really thought about that and thought, again, there were some good points, but the first one, who are you, your name, is like, I got to do better than that. That was completely unsatisfying for me. Maybe for you too. Maybe you think about that. Maybe you can find, I'll try to leave the link for that talk, and you can look at it yourself. Thanks for listening.